In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. So today is the Sunday we call the Triumph of Orthodoxy. I don't like that word triumph because it sort of sounds like we're being triumphalistic, and it's not that at all. It's rather that the church had gone through a period of intense craziness. For the first period of iconoclasm, which started about 726, lasted for 61 years. Then there was a little bit of a break, and then another 26 years. So a total of about 100, over a period of about 120 years, 18 years, on again, off again. Lots of people were killed. Almost all of the icons that existed before the iconoclast controversy were destroyed. Literally, 20 or 30 survived. Most of them at Mount Sinai, because they were out of reach, and a few others. It was a terrible time. The church had gone crazy. And, you know, it's not unlike the times we live in now. Right? We've got a sexual revolution going on. You know, how is the church going to respond? Well, so far, at least a lot of the churches who aren't Orthodox, if we can even call them churches, have sort of caved in. I don't know. We're going to have to go through another time of intense craziness. Have a few dozen of us thrown into prison, maybe have our tongues cut out. You know? That's what happened in those days. When we become followers of Christ, we're not guaranteed a life without sorrow. We are offered a peaceful life, but a peaceful life doesn't mean a life without sorrow. It doesn't mean a life without disappointment. It doesn't mean a life without having friends who turn on us. It doesn't mean having a life without loved ones who turn away from us. It doesn't mean having a life without all the stuff that causes disappointment and pain. It's all here. In a sense, we might say, following Christ guarantees that you will become like him. You will be crucified with him in one way or another. Isn't that what happens at our baptism? It says we go into the grave with Christ. We die with Christ that we might be raised with him. And so today is the Triumph of Orthodoxy. What's very interesting is the first really serious attempt. Up until people started saying you shouldn't venerate icons, no one had ever thought about why people venerate icons. It's just something they had always done. Right? And some of the earliest churches, and by the way, synagogues from the 3rd century, have icons all over the walls. It's something that was part of Jewish and Christian worship. Until, again, some people attribute this to Muhammad and Islam, came along and said, oh no, you're not allowed to do that. As if no one had read Deuteronomy before Muhammad? What? He was the one who misunderstood. The church knew what it was doing. The church wasn't worshiping wood and paint. The Jews weren't worshiping wood and paint, right? When they prayed toward the temple in Jerusalem, were they worshiping the temple? No. They knew the difference between the worship that's due to God alone and we use the word veneration, or sometimes the word is used, the relative worship, right? Or veneration if you prefer, that is given to holy people and holy things, right? We respect holy things, right? If I had a picture of my wife, would I spit on it? No, of course not. But it's just a piece of paper. See, this is the thing. You can go to any... Back in the old days, the Muslims didn't even have pictures, but today a lot of them do. And you can go to one and say, here's a picture of your wife or your child. Spit on it. No, of course not. But it's just a picture. But they know already that it's more than a picture. Because the picture carries the likeness of someone I love. And so the way I treat that picture says something about how I feel about the one whose image is portrayed on the picture. Right? I'm not worshiping. I might kiss I had a little picture of my wife, right? Especially when I was younger. It was a lot more mushy 20 years ago. Love modifies as you get older. It's still love. It's just not quite as mushy as it used to be. But if I had a picture of my wife and I was traveling, I might give it a little kiss before I went to bed. Right? Am I kissing a piece of paper? Yes. Yes. And am I expressing my love for my wife? Yes. Right? Because the paper bears the image. And this was what in the 7th century, the first person to really explain why we venerate icons was St. John of Damascus. And you know, his explanation, his 3 reasons why you should venerate icons, is still today the standard defense and explanation to anybody. Everything else is just a variation on what he wrote in the 7th century. Right? One reason. Jesus is the icon of the Father. In our English translations, we translate it image or likeness or exact, express something or another. But it's the Greek word icon. Jesus is the icon of the Father. Jesus is the icon. So if Jesus can be an icon of the Father, and he said to his disciples, if you see me, you see the Father. And when he says, if you love me, you love the Father, then that principle is established, right? The second problem was the second commandment, right? Don't make any images. Don't make any icons. We think, maybe icons, right? Not of anything on earth or anything above the earth. What could that be referring to? Well, we know what it was not referring to. It was certainly not referring to making little brass bowls for the temple that held the bath that they washed the sacrifices in. It didn't refer to the angels that covered the Ark of the Covenant. Right? God said, don't make images, and then turns around and tells them to make images. So what was he referring to in the second commandment? He was talking about false images. Remember in the desert where the people made the golden calf? And what did they say about that golden calf? This is your God who brought you out of Israel. That's idolatry. That's what's forbidden by the second commandment. Right? And then the third thing is, what's happening when we touch or kiss an icon. And Basil the Great summarized it actually 200 or 300 years earlier when he said the affection or veneration given to a type or an icon passes through the icon to the prototype that it's representing. Right? Like I was talking about kissing a picture of my wife. And so today we celebrate the triumph of orthodoxy, and what we're going to do now is there's a little procession that is normally done actually outside the church. You walk around the perimeter of the church.